The Temple of Eternal Stillness stood on a small rocky moon at the edge of the Milky Way. For 300 years, it had been a place where time seemed to slow down. While the rest of humanity raced through space in faster-than-light ships, built cities on distant planets, and fought wars with alien species, the monks of the temple lived simply. They wore plain white robes. They ate rice and vegetables grown in their gardens. They drank water collected from ice deposits, and they practiced the ancient art of perfect stillness. Jin-ho was 45 years old now. He had lived at the temple since he was 5. As a child, his parents had noticed something different about him. While other children ran and played, Jin-ho often sat quietly, watching the world with deep, dark eyes. When his parents found him sitting in the same spot for 6 hours, not moving even to eat or drink, they knew he needed special teaching. "Your son has an old soul," the temple master had told them. "He sees what others cannot." Now Jin-ho sat cross-legged in the central meditation hall. The room was large and round with a high ceiling. Sunlight came through windows cut into the rock. The light made patterns on the stone floor. Jin-ho had been sitting in the same position for 3 days. To anyone watching, it might seem he was just meditating, but the other monks knew better. Jin-ho was practicing the highest form of their art, existing in all places at once while appearing to be in only one. "Master Jin-ho," a voice called softly from the doorway. Jin-ho opened his eyes slowly. He saw young Mi, one of the newer monks, standing with her hands folded. Next to her was a tall woman in a formal blue uniform covered with medals and pins. "Visitors from Earth," young Mi said. "The Galactic Council has sent Ambassador Hana. She says it is very important." Jin-ho nodded once. He unfolded his legs and stood up in a single smooth motion. His joints did not crack or pop despite sitting for so long. He walked toward the visitors with small, careful steps. "Ambassador," he said, bowing slightly, "you have traveled far." Hana was a strong-looking woman with short black hair streaked with gray. Her face showed worry lines around her eyes and mouth. She returned the bow, but her movements were quick and tense. "Master Jin-ho," she said, "Earth needs your help. All of humanity needs your help." Jin-ho motioned toward a small side room where 3 cushions were arranged around a low table. A young monk named Taewon brought in a pot of hot tea and 3 cups, then left quietly, closing the sliding door behind him. "Tell me what troubles you," Jin-ho said as he poured the tea. "Ambassador," Hana took a small sip before speaking. "Have you heard of the Ayuran Empire?" Jin-ho shook his head. "We do not follow the news of the galaxy here. The Ayurans are a warrior race from the Andromeda galaxy. They arrived 6 months ago with a fleet of 10,000 ships." Hana's hands tightened around her cup. "They have technology we've never seen before. Their soldiers can move at near light speed in combat. Our weapons can't track them. Our shields can't stop them." "I am sorry to hear this," Jin-ho said. "War brings much suffering." "It's worse than a war," Hana said. "It's a slaughter. They've taken 7 of our outer colonies already. Millions dead. Millions more taken as slaves." She set down her cup with a sharp click against the table. "Yesterday they sent a message to Earth. They demand our complete surrender within 10 days or they will destroy our homeworld." Jin-ho closed his eyes for a moment. "And you have come to ask for the temple's help?" "Not the temple," Hana said. "You specifically, Master Jin-ho." Jin-ho's eyebrows rose slightly, the most surprise he had shown in many years. "Me? I am just a simple monk. I have no weapons, no ships, no armies. But you have something more powerful," Hana said. She leaned forward. "The Galactic Council has been watching you for years. We have sensors that can detect quantum fluctuations. When you meditate, you create patterns that our scientists cannot explain." Jin-ho said nothing, but his eyes showed he understood. "Our scientists believe you've mastered what they call quantum positioning. You can exist in multiple states at once." Hana's voice became eager. "The Ayuran's only advantage is their speed, but speed doesn't matter if you can be everywhere and nowhere at the same time." Jin-ho set down his tea. He folded his hands in his lap. "What you are asking is impossible," he said softly. "I have spent 40 years learning to be still, to find peace, to exist without disturbing the world around me." "We're not asking you to fight," Hana said quickly. "Just to demonstrate. The Ayurans respect strength above all else. If they see that humans possess abilities beyond their understanding, they might reconsider their attack." Jinho was quiet for a long time. The only sound in the room was their breathing and the faint whistle of wind through the temple's stone walls. "I will not fight," he said finally. "Violence creates more violence. It solves nothing." Hana's shoulders slumped. "Then Earth will fall. Billions will die." "I did not say I would not help," Jinho corrected gently. "I said I would not fight. There is a difference." Hope returned to Hana's face. "What will you do?" "I will observe," Jinho said, his voice calm as still water. "I will witness. I will be present." "The Ayurans don't understand pacifism," Hana warned. "They see it as weakness." Jinho almost smiled. "Then they will learn." He rose to his feet. "I will need one day to prepare. Then I will go with you to meet these Ayurans." Hana stood too, bowing deeply. "Thank you, Master Jinho. Earth, all of humanity, will be in your debt." "No debt is needed when doing what is right," Jinho said. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. For 300 years, this temple has kept the old ways alive. We have studied the true nature of reality while others looked outward to the stars. Perhaps it is time to share what we have learned. That night, while Ambassador Hana slept in the guest quarters, Jinho sat in the central hall once more. His eyes were closed. His breathing was so slow that another person might think he wasn't breathing at all. To the normal eye, he appeared to be sitting perfectly still, but on the quantum level, Jinho was everywhere at once. His consciousness stretched across multiple dimensions. He wasn't practicing anymore. He was preparing for the greatest test of his abilities, to stand before warriors who moved at the speed of light and to remain untouched without raising a hand against them. As the moon turned slowly and the light of a distant sun crept across the meditation hall floor, Jinho opened his eyes. "I am ready," he whispered to the empty room. The Ayuran ship was huge. It hung in space above Earth like a metal storm cloud. Its dark surface was covered with sharp points and glowing blue lines. Next to it, the Earth transport ship that carried Jinho and Ambassador Hana looked like a small fish next to a whale. Jinho stood by the window of the transport ship. He wore his simple white robe. He had brought nothing else from the temple, no weapons, no special tools, not even a change of clothes. He watched as their small ship moved toward a glowing opening in the side of the Ayuran vessel. "We're being guided into their docking bay," Hana explained. She had changed into her most formal uniform. Medals and ribbons covered her chest. Her face was serious. "Remember, the Ayurans respect strength and nothing else. Do not show fear." Jinho turned to her with calm eyes. "I have not felt fear in many years, Ambassador." The ship landed with a gentle bump. There was a hissing sound as the air pressure equalized. Then the door slid open. 10 Ayuran soldiers stood waiting. They were tall with pale blue skin. Each one wore black armor that seemed to shift and move like water. Their eyes glowed with the same blue light as the lines on their ship. They held weapons that looked like spears but with energy fields at the tips. An Ayuran in more elaborate armor stepped forward. "I am General Do Yun," he said in perfect English. His voice was deep and smooth. "You will follow me to the grand hall." Jinho nodded politely. He walked forward with small, unhurried steps. The Ayuran soldiers moved to surround him and Hana. Their movements were fast and precise, like birds changing direction in flight. They walked through long metal corridors. The walls were covered with symbols that glowed and changed. Jinho noticed that the Ayurans moved differently than humans. They seemed to flicker slightly as if they were not always completely in one place. The grand hall was an enormous room with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. Hundreds of Ayurans stood on raised platforms around the edges. In the center was an open space with a black floor that reflected like water. Standing in the center was another Ayuran. But this one looked different. He had the features of a human, from East Asia. His skin was normal human color, not blue. But his eyes glowed like the other Ayurans, and his movements had the same strange flickering quality. "This is Quan Su," General Do-yun announced. His voice echoed in the huge room. "He was born human but chose to join us. He has become our champion warrior." Quan Su looked at Jin-ho with a mix of curiosity and scorn. "This is the human defender?" he asked. His voice had a metallic sound to it. "An old man in a robe? He doesn't even have a weapon." Ambassador Hana stepped forward. She kept her back straight and her voice steady. "This is Master Jin-ho of the Temple of Eternal Stillness. He has agreed to a demonstration of human ability." General Do-yun's glowing eyes narrowed. "What kind of demonstration?" "A simple test," Hana said. "Quan Su will attempt to touch Master Jin-ho. If he succeeds even once, Earth will consider your terms of surrender." A murmur ran through the watching Ayurans. Quan Su laughed. The sound was like breaking glass. "Touch him? That's all?" Quan Su looked at General Do-yun. "Is this a joke?" "What is the trick?" General Do-yun asked, looking at Jin-ho carefully. "No human can move fast enough to avoid our warriors. We can move at near light speed in combat." Jin-ho bowed slightly to the general. "There is no trick. Only understanding." Quan Su stepped closer to Jin-ho. He was taller by at least a head. His body seemed to vibrate with energy and impatience. "And when I touch you? What then?" "If," Jin-ho corrected without changing his calm expression. "If you touch me, which you will not." Anger flashed in Quan Su's glowing eyes. "You speak with great confidence for someone about to be humiliated." Jin-ho smiled slightly. "Pride and humiliation are two sides of the same coin. I have no need for either." General Do-yun raised his hand and the room fell silent. "Very well. The terms are accepted." He turned to Quan Su. "You will have 3 minutes to touch the human. No weapons, no serious injury. Just contact is required." Quan Su nodded. He stepped back and rolled his shoulders. The black material of his armor rippled. Jin-ho walked to the center of the black floor. He sat down cross-legged, his back straight, his hands resting on his knees. "You're not going to stand up?" Quan Su asked in disbelief. "This position is comfortable for me," Jin-ho replied. General Do-yun moved to the edge of the black floor. "Begin when ready," he commanded. Jin-ho closed his eyes. He took one deep breath, then became perfectly still. Quan Su didn't move for a moment. He circled Jin-ho slowly, looking for some sign of trickery. Then, without warning, he attacked. To the observers watching, Quan Su simply vanished. There was a blur of movement so fast that it couldn't be tracked by human eyes. Then he appeared on the other side of Jin-ho, looking confused. He had missed. Quan Su attacked again. This time the blur of his movement created a wind that stirred Jin-ho's white robe. But when Quan Su reappeared, his hand had still not touched the monk. Again and again, Quan Su attacked. Each time he moved faster than the time before. His body became nothing but a streak of light circling the sitting monk. The air in the room began to heat up from the friction of his passage. Small bolts of electricity crackled around the black floor. But no matter how fast he moved, no matter what angle he came from, Quan Su could not touch Jin-ho. It wasn't that the monk dodged or blocked. To everyone watching, Jin-ho barely seemed to move at all. Yet somehow Quan Su's hand always passed through empty space where Jin-ho should have been. After 2 minutes of continuous attacks, Quan Su stopped. He stood 10 steps away from Jin-ho, breathing hard. Sweat ran down his face. His glowing eyes were wide with confusion and growing fear. "What are you?" he demanded. Jin-ho opened his eyes. "I am just a man who has learned to be still." "No one can avoid attacks at light speed," Quan Su shouted. "It's physically impossible." "Only if you believe that space and time are fixed," Jin-ho said quietly. "They are not." General Do-yun stepped onto the black floor. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes were intense with interest. "Explain," he ordered. Jin-Ho looked up at the general. "Your warriors move their bodies through space very quickly. This is impressive but limited. I do not move through space at all. Instead, I exist in all possible spaces at once and choose which one to be solid in." Ambassador Hana watched from the side of the room. Her face showed both relief and wonder. The test was going better than she had hoped. Quan Su shook his head. "No, this is some kind of trick. Some technology we haven't detected." "You may search me," Jin-Ho offered. "I have no technology, only practice and understanding." "You still have 1 minute," General Do-Yun reminded Quan Su. "Continue the test." Quan Su's face hardened with determination. He took a deep breath. Then he activated something in his armor. The black material began to glow with blue light. Energy crackled around his body. "Full acceleration," he growled. "No human can survive even being near me at this speed." He vanished again. But this time the entire room shook. The air roared like a storm. Watching Ayurans had to hold on to railings to stay upright. The black floor cracked in several places from the pressure of Quan Su's movements. Jin-Ho sat unmoving, in the center of the storm. His white robe flapped wildly in the wind, but his body remained still. His eyes were open now, watching calmly as reality blurred around him. When the 3 minutes ended, General Do-Yun raised his hand again. "Stop," he commanded. Quan Su reappeared. He fell to his knees, gasping for breath. His armor was smoking. His face was pale with exhaustion. Jin-Ho stood up slowly. He straightened his robe. Then he bowed to Quan Su. "You fought well," he said. "But fighting is not the answer to everything." General Do-Yun looked at Jin-Ho with new respect. "It seems," he said slowly, "that we have much to learn about humans." The news of Jin-Ho's demonstration spread quickly through the Ayuran ship. Groups of blue-skinned warriors gathered in hallways and talked in low voices. They looked at Jin-Ho with a mix of fear and wonder when he walked past. No one in the history of the Ayuran Empire had ever avoided their light-speed attacks. It was supposed to be impossible. Jin-Ho had been given a small room to stay in. It was made of metal like the rest of the ship. The bed was hard and flat. There were no windows. Jin-Ho did not mind. He sat on the floor and meditated most of the time. On the morning of the 3rd day, there was a soft knock on his door. When it slid open, a human woman stood there. She wore the black uniform of the Ayuran science team, but her skin was normal human color. Her name tag read Subin. "Master Jin-Ho," she said with a small bow. "I am Chief Scientist Subin. I have been asked to study your abilities." Jin-Ho nodded and motioned for her to come in. "How may I help you?" Subin carried a small metal case. She set it on the floor and opened it. Inside were many small devices that blinked with colored lights. "These are quantum measurement devices," she explained. "They can detect changes in the basic fabric of reality." She looked up at Jin-Ho with curious eyes. "May I measure you while you demonstrate your ability?" "Of course," Jin-Ho said. He folded his legs and sat in the middle of the room. "What would you like me to do?" Subin placed the small devices in a circle around Jin-Ho. "First, just sit. Normally," she said. "Then when I ask, please do whatever you did during the challenge with Quan Su." Jin-Ho closed his eyes. He breathed slowly and deeply. Subin watched the screens on her devices. They showed normal readings for a human at rest. "Now," Subin said, "please demonstrate your ability." Jin-Ho did not appear to change. He kept his eyes closed. His breathing remained slow and steady. But Subin gasped as she watched her screens. The readings went wild. Numbers flashed and changed rapidly. Some displays showed impossible values. "This cannot be," she whispered. She adjusted some settings and tried again. The results were the same. After 10 minutes, Jin-Ho opened his eyes. "Did you get the information you needed?" he asked. Subin was still staring at her screens. "According to these readings, You exist in a state of quantum superposition, she said. You are in multiple places at the same time. Jinho nodded. The ancient texts called it moving without moving. When one achieves perfect stillness of mind, the body remembers it exists in all possible positions simultaneously. Subin shook her head in amazement. But that should only happen with particles smaller than atoms, not with something as large as a human body. Size is an illusion, Jinho said simply. All things are made of the same small parts. The difference is only in how they are arranged. Later that day, Jinho was called to meet with General Do-yun. The general's office was large and plain. Maps of star systems covered the walls. A model of the Ayuran fleet sat on a table. Our scientists are very interested in you, Do-yun said. He did not ask Jinho to sit down. They say your ability should not be possible for a biological being. Many things are possible that we do not yet understand, Jinho replied. The general studied Jinho's face. How long did it take you to learn this skill? 40 years, Jinho said honestly. Do-yun nodded slowly. Too long to be useful for our purposes. It is not a weapon to be used, Jinho said. It is a state of being to be achieved. Before the general could respond, the door opened. Quan Su stormed in, his face was dark with anger. There must be a rematch, he demanded. The test was not fair. General Do-yun's expression did not change. You failed the challenge, Quan Su. The terms were clear. Quan Su pointed at Jinho. He used some kind of trick. No human can do what he did. And yet, he did it, Do-yun said coldly. Our scientists confirm it is not a trick. Quan Su's eyes glowed brighter with anger. Then I demand an official combat in the arena. Not a simple test, but a real fight to determine superiority. Jinho looked at Quan Su with calm eyes. I do not fight. I told you this from the beginning. If you refuse to fight, you forfeit Earth's sovereignty, Quan Su said with a cruel smile. That is Ayuran law. A challenge can be issued to any representative of a world we plan to conquer. Jinho turned to General Do-yun. Is this true? The general nodded. It is our way. For 3,000 years, the Ayuran Empire has grown through combat and conquest. The strong survive and rule. The weak serve or perish. Jinho was quiet for a moment. He looked at the maps on the wall. Each one showed hundreds of star systems. All of them now belonged to the Ayuran Empire. I will attend your arena, Jinho said finally. But I will not fight. Violence is unnecessary when one understands existence properly, Quan Su laughed. Then you will lose, monk. And your planet will be ours. We shall see, Jinho said. After Quan Su left, General Do-yun stepped closer to Jinho. For the first time. His face showed something other than cold control. He looked troubled. You intrigue me, human, he said quietly. In 3 centuries of warfare, we have conquered through superior speed and force. Yet here you stand, with no weapons, no technology, and no fear. He gestured to the star maps. We have taken 17 star systems in the past year alone. None could stand against our light-speed combat methods. And has it brought you peace? Jinho asked. Do-yun looked surprised by the question. Peace? We do not seek peace. We seek power and resources. And when you have all the power and all the resources, what then? The general had no answer. Ambassador Hana was not happy when she heard about the arena challenge. She paced back and forth in Jinho's room. This is exactly what I was afraid would happen, she said. They're forcing you to fight on their terms. No one can force me to fight, Jinho said. He sat calmly on the floor. I will go to their arena. I will be present, but I will not fight. Then Earth will be lost, Hana said, her voice breaking with emotion. All because of some philosophical principle. Jinho looked up at her. Do you trust me, Ambassador? Hana stopped pacing. What? Do you trust that I know what I am doing? Hana sighed. I don't know. When I came to the temple, I hoped for a warrior who could match the Ayurans. Instead, I found a monk who refuses to raise a hand even to save his own people. Sometimes the strongest action is no action, Jinho said. That night, Jinho received another visitor. It was Subin, the scientist. She entered quietly and closed the door behind her. I had to speak with you, she said in a low voice. What you did during our test today, it changes everything we thought we knew about physics. Jinho smiled. Science and spirituality are not separate paths. They lead to the same truth seen from different angles. Subin sat down across from him. Can you teach others to do what you do? It takes many years of practice, Jinho said. But yes, the potential exists in all humans. Subin looked at the door nervously. The Ayurans don't want solutions. They want conquest. If they knew what you represent, a power they cannot control or replicate quickly, they might not wait for the arena challenge. They might simply destroy Earth to prevent others from learning your skills. Jinho nodded. I have considered this possibility. Then what will you do? I will trust in what I know to be true, Jinho said. That violence creates only more violence. That true strength comes from understanding, not from force. Subin stood up to leave. At the door, she turned back. The arena will be different from the test. There will be 5 warriors, not just Kwansu, all with light speed capability. If you do not fight back, Jinho smiled gently. Remember what you saw on your instruments today. I am not limited to one place or one moment. Neither are you or anyone else. We have simply forgotten this truth. Subin left, her face troubled but thoughtful. Jinho closed his eyes and returned to his meditation. Tomorrow would bring the greatest test of his beliefs, not a test of whether he could avoid being touched. He knew that was possible. But a test of whether peaceful non-action could change the hearts of those who believed only in strength through violence. The Ayuran arena was enormous. It was a perfect circle with high walls made of a clear material stronger than glass. 10,000 Ayurans sat in rows that rose up like a mountain around the fighting floor. Their blue skin and glowing eyes made them look like stars in a night sky. Jinho stood in a small waiting room beneath the arena. He wore his white robe, the same one he had worn since leaving the temple. It was still clean, as if dust and dirt could not touch it, just as Kwansu could not touch him. Ambassador Hana paced back and forth. Her face was pale with worry. There must be another way, she said. Perhaps we can negotiate. Offer them something. Jinho shook his head. They do not want things, Ambassador. They want to prove their way of life is superior. That strength and speed are the only true powers in the universe. And you intend to prove them wrong by standing still while they attack. You? Hana asked. Sometimes the greatest lesson comes from what does not happen, Jinho said. The door opened. Subin entered, carrying a small device in her hands. Her face was tight with fear. I checked the arena setup, she said quickly. It's worse than I thought. They have 5 warriors prepared, including Kwansu. All of them have the new Mark 7 acceleration field generators. She held up the device. This scanner shows they can reach 98% of light speed, Hana gasped. That's faster than in the test, Subin nodded. Much faster, and they will all attack at once from different angles. Jinho listened calmly. Thank you for the information. It makes no difference to my approach. Subin stepped closer to him. Master Jinho, I've been studying your readings. Your quantum state is remarkable, but it has limits. At some point, probability will catch up. One of them will touch you. Perhaps, Jinho said with a small smile. But probability is also an illusion when one truly understands the nature of reality. A loud horn sounded from above. It was time. Master Jinho, Hana said desperately, please reconsider. Earth will find another way to defend itself. Jinho placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Trust in what you cannot see, Ambassador. The strongest forces in the universe are invisible. Jinho walked into the center of the arena alone. The crowd grew quiet as he entered. His small figure in white looked out of place in the huge battle space designed for violent combat. From 5 different doors around the arena, the Ayuran warriors entered. Each wore special black armor with glowing blue lines. Each carried a different weapon. Quan Su led them. His face was hard with determination and hate. High above in a special box sat General Do Yun. Next to him was an older Ayuran with a crown of metal spikes. This was the Ayuran Emperor, who had come to witness the unusual challenge personally. Citizens of the Ayuran Empire, Do Yun's voice boomed through the arena. Today we witness a formal challenge. 5 of our greatest warriors against 1 human monk who claims to understand the deeper nature of reality. He paused. If the human is touched even once, Earth will surrender to our rule. If our warriors fail, Earth remains. Free! The crowd roared with excitement. They stomped their feet and banged their hands on the railings. The whole arena shook with the sound. Jin Ho stood perfectly still in the center. He waited for the noise to die down. Before we begin, he said in a voice that somehow carried to every corner of the arena, I wish to ask a question. The crowd grew quiet again, surprised. Speak, Do Yun commanded. Jin Ho looked up at the general and the emperor. Why do you fight? What is the purpose of all this conquest? The emperor stood. He was tall and thin with eyes that glowed brighter than any other Ayuran. We fight because it is our nature. We conquer because we can. The strong rule the weak. This is the law of the universe. Jin Ho nodded. That is one way to see reality. I offer another. We are all connected. All part of the same universe. The same energy flows through all living things. To harm another is to harm oneself. Quan Su laughed. Pretty words from a man about to lose his world. Jin Ho turned to look at the 5 warriors. I will not fight you, but I invite you to observe what happens when force meets true stillness. Enough talk, the emperor commanded. Begin the challenge. Jin Ho sat down cross-legged in the center of the arena. He closed his eyes. His breathing slowed until his chest barely moved. The 5 warriors spread out in a circle around him. They activated their acceleration fields. Blue energy crackled around their armor. Their forms began to blur at the edges. Attack! Quan Su shouted. All 5 warriors vanished at once. The air in the arena roared like a storm. Flashes of light marked their paths as they moved faster than any eye could follow. The floor of the arena cracked in places from the pressure of their passing. In the center of this chaos, Jin Ho sat unmoving. His white robe fluttered in the wind of their passing, but his body remained perfectly still. The warriors attacked from every angle. One came from above, diving down at near light speed. Another slid across the floor with a blade extended. The others came from different sides. All converged on the single point where Jin Ho sat, and all passed through empty space. Again and again, they attacked. Minutes passed. The warriors moved so fast that they created trails of superheated air behind them. Small lightning bolts crackled where their paths crossed. The temperature in the arena rose from the friction of their movement. In the stands, the Ayurans watched in silence. Their confidence had changed to confusion, then to awe. After 20 minutes of continuous attack, the emperor raised his hand. Stop, he commanded. The 5 warriors reappeared, standing at different points around Jin Ho. They were exhausted. Steam rose from their armor. 2 of them fell to their knees, their energy completely spent. Quan Su was the only one who could still stand straight. He stared at Jin Ho with a mix of hate and fear. What are you? He demanded. Jin Ho opened his eyes. He stood up slowly and straightened his robe. I am just a human who has remembered what most have forgotten, he said. That we exist in all possible states until observation collapses possibility into a single reality. Subin stepped onto the arena floor. She carried a scanner in her hands. The screen showed a cloud of light around Jin Ho. It's true, she announced. He exists in a state of quantum superposition. When your weapons try to touch him, they interact with only one possible position. But he is simultaneously in all other positions as well. General Do Yun descended from his box and walked onto the floor. For the first time, his face showed open wonder. Such an ability would make one invincible in combat, he said. You could conquer galaxies. Jinho shook his head. That is not the purpose of this knowledge. True power comes from understanding one's connection to all things, not from controlling or conquering them. The Emperor joined them on the floor. The crowd gasped. The Emperor had never stepped onto the battleground before. You have passed the challenge, the Emperor said. His voice was old and rough. Earth will remain free as agreed. Jinho bowed slightly. Thank you. But I must know, the Emperor continued. Could you teach others this skill? The method, yes, Jinho said. But it requires years of practice and a willingness to let go of aggression and fear. It cannot be rushed or forced. The Emperor looked at Jinho with curious eyes. Perhaps there are forms of strength we have yet to understand. Jinho smiled. That is the beginning of wisdom. As Jinho left the arena with Ambassador Hana, cheers followed them. Not the wild, bloodthirsty cheers that had greeted the warriors, but sounds of wonder and respect. You did it, Hana whispered, tears in her eyes. You saved Earth without harming anyone. I did nothing, Jinho said. I simply showed them another way to see reality. That night, as their ship prepared to return to Earth, Subin came to say goodbye. She carried a small bag with her. I am coming with you, she said. With the Emperor's permission. He has asked me to study your methods and perhaps I may learn them myself, Jinho smiled. The first student of many, perhaps. As their ship pulled away from the massive Ayuran vessel, Jinho looked out the window at the stars. For the first time in centuries, someone had stood against the Ayuran Empire without using violence. For the first time, the Ayurans had encountered a power they could not overcome with speed or strength. It was just the beginning, but it was enough. 1 year had passed since the challenge in the Ayuran arena. The Temple of Eternal Stillness was no longer a quiet place. New buildings had been added around the original stone structures. The small garden had grown larger to feed more people. The meditation halls were full of students from many worlds. Jinho sat on a stone bench in the garden. The morning sun warmed his face. He watched as groups of students practiced in the open spaces. Some wore the white robes of the temple. Others wore the clothing of their home worlds. There were even 5 Ayurans among them, their blue skins standing out against the green plants. Subin approached and sat beside him. She now wore the simple white robe of the temple, though she still carried small devices to measure and record the quantum states of the students. The new group from Earth arrived this morning, she said. 50 more students. We will need to build another dormitory soon. Jinho nodded. And how is your own practice progressing? Subin smiled. Yesterday I maintained quantum superposition for 7 minutes. Not long enough to be useful in a real situation, but better than last week. Good, Jinho said. Remember, the goal is not to avoid being touched. The goal is to understand your true nature. Subin had become his first and most dedicated student. She approached the ancient practice with the mind of a scientist, measuring and recording everything. At first, she had been frustrated when the numbers and readings did not help her progress. But slowly, she had begun to understand that the practice went beyond what could be measured. A small ship appeared in the sky above them. It descended slowly and landed in the new landing area near the temple. Jinho recognized it as an Ayuran diplomatic vessel. We have visitors, he said, standing up. When they reached the landing area, General Do Yun was walking down the ramp of the ship. He wore a simpler uniform now with fewer decorations. Behind him came Quan Su. The former champion looked different. The glowing blue implants had been removed from his eyes. His face was calmer. Master Jinho, Do Yun said with a bow. Thank you for receiving us. You are always welcome here, Jinho replied. What brings you to our temple? Do Yun looked around at the new buildings and the many students. Your teaching is spreading quickly. There are now practitioners of your method on 12 worlds within the Ayuran Empire. Jinho nodded. Knowledge belongs to everyone. not just to one planet or one species. They walked together through the temple grounds. Students stopped their practice to bow to Jin-Ho and the visitors. Some of the younger ones stared at the blue-skinned general with wide eyes. "The Emperor has been watching your progress with great interest," Do-Yun said. "He has sent me with a proposal." They entered a small meeting room. Young Mai, now a senior monk, brought tea for everyone. When she had left, Do-Yun continued, "The Ayuran Empire has existed for 20,000 years based on one principle, that superior strength and speed equals superior power." He sipped his tea. "Your demonstration in the arena challenged that belief for the first time in our history." Jin-Ho listened quietly. "The Emperor proposes a formal alliance between Earth and the Ayuran Empire," Do-Yun said, "not as conqueror and conquered, but as equals. He wishes to establish a school on the Ayuran homeworld where your methods can be taught to our people." Jin-Ho set down his cup. "And what does the Emperor hope to gain from this?" "Understanding," Do-Yun said simply. "For 20,000 years we have expanded outward, taking from others. Perhaps it is time to look inward and discover what we have missed." Kwansu, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "I have been trying to learn your methods," he said. His voice was softer than before. "I removed my speed implants. I practice stillness for hours each day. But I cannot achieve what you did in the arena because you are trying to gain a weapon," Jin-Ho said gently. "Not understanding." Kwansu looked down. "Yes, I see that now. My desire to be untouchable comes from fear, from the need to be superior." "That is an important insight," Jin-Ho said. "The beginning of true progress." The meeting continued for several hours. They discussed the details of the proposed alliance, how teachers would be selected, how the knowledge would be shared. When they finished, Do-Yun and Kwansu prepared to leave. At the ship, Do-Yun had one more question. "There is something I still do not understand," he said. "You could have used your ability to become the most powerful being in the galaxy. You could have conquered worlds. Instead, you share your knowledge freely and teach peace." "Why?" Jin-Ho smiled. "Because true power comes from connection, not control, from being part of the universe, not attempting to rule it." As the Ayuran ship took off, Ambassador Hana arrived in an Earth transport. She had become the official liaison between Earth and the Ayuran Empire. Her work had helped establish peace between the two civilizations. "I heard General Do-Yun was here," she said as she walked with Jin-Ho back to the temple. "How did the meeting go?" "Well," Jin-Ho said, "the alliance will proceed. The Emperor seems sincere in his desire for change." Hana shook her head in wonder. "A year ago we were facing destruction. Now the most powerful empire in the galaxy wants to learn from us." She looked at Jin-Ho. "All because one monk refused to fight." Jin-Ho smiled. "Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to use your strength." That evening, Jin-Ho led a meditation session in the main hall. 500 students from 20 different worlds sat in rows. Humans next to Ayurans, former enemies learning the same practice side by side. Jin-Ho looked at them all before beginning. "Today we have visitors from the Ayuran Empire," he said. "Once they were seen as enemies. Now they are fellow students on the same path. This is the true victory, not defeating others, but turning opposition into harmony." He closed his eyes. The students followed his example. "Remember that the practice is not about gaining power over others," he continued. "It is about understanding your connection to all things. When you truly understand that you exist in all places at once, you will also understand that you are connected to all beings. To harm another is to harm yourself. To help another is to help yourself." The room fell silent as 500 students began to practice. The air in the room became still, then began to shimmer slightly as some of the advanced students entered. Quantum superposition. Jin-Ho opened his eyes and looked at them. Subin caught his glance and smiled. She held up one of her measuring devices. The screen showed clouds of quantum probability surrounding many of the students. For thousands of years, humans had developed weapons and defenses. They had built Walls and ships and guns. They had fought wars and been conquered, all trying to be safe, all trying to be untouchable. And now, they were learning that true safety came not from fighting, but from understanding, not from being stronger or faster, but from being still and aware. Jin-Ho closed his eyes again and returned to his own practice. The greatest lesson had been taught. The strongest weapon was no weapon. The most powerful defense was no defense. And the human monk who refused to fight had changed the galaxy more than any warrior ever could. As darkness fell over the temple, the stars came out. Among them were the lights of ships bringing more students from distant worlds. The Temple of Eternal Stillness had become a beacon of new understanding in the galaxy. And it had all begun with one simple truth: that sometimes the greatest power comes from choosing not to use power at all. The end.